Today we're going to read a book called Chicken Sunday. It is a story that kind of goes along with Easter coming up, our holiday that we're about to celebrate. So I wanted to read a book to you by Patricia Polacco. As some of you know, she's my favorite author, so I thought that would be a good story to read today. So follow along. Let's see what trouble Patricia's going to get into today. Stuart and Winston were my neighbors. They were my brothers by a solemn ceremony we had performed in my backyard one summer. They weren't the same religion as I was. They were Baptist. Their Gamma, Eula May Walker, was my Gamma now. My babushka had died 2 summers before. Sometimes my mother would let me go to church on Sunday with them. How we loved to hear Miss Eula sing. She had a voice like slow thunder and sweet rain. We walked to church and back. She'd take my hand as we crossed College Avenue. Even though we'd been churching up like decent folks ought to, she'd say, "I don't want you to step in front of one of those too fast cars. You'll be as flat as a hen's tongue." She squeezed my hand. When we passed Mr. Kadinsky's hat shop, Miss Eula would always stop and look in the window at the wonderful hats. Then she'd sigh, and we'd walk on. We called those Sundays Chicken Sundays because Miss Eula almost always fried chicken for dinner. My mama used to too. There'd be collard greens with bacon, a big pot of Hoppin' John, corn on the cob, and fried spoon bread. One Sunday at the table, we watched her paper fan flutter back and forth, pulling moist chicken fried air along with it. She took a deep breath. Her skin glowed as she smiled. Then she told us something we already knew. That Easter bonnet in Mr. Kadinsky's window is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The 3 of us exchanged looks. We wanted to get her that hat more than anything in the world. Stuart reached into the hole in the trunk of our wish tree in the backyard. He pulled out a rusty Band-Aid tin, and the 3 of us held our breath as we counted the money inside that we'd been saving for weeks. If we are going to get the hat for Miss Eula in time for Easter, we are going to need a lot more than this. Maybe we should ask Mr. Kadinsky if we could sweep up the shop or something to earn the rest of the money, Stuart said. I don't know, Winnie said fearfully. He's such a strange old man. He never smiles at anyone, and he always looks so mean. We all agreed, but it was worth a try anyway. The next day, we took a shortcut down the alley in the back of the hat shop. Bigger boys were there. They were yelling. Eggs flew past us and pelted Mr. Kadinsky's back door. Just as the boys ran away, the door flew open. Mr. Kadinsky glared straight at us. "You here," he yelled. "Why do you kids do things like this?" "It wasn't us," Stuart tried to say, but Mr. Kadinsky wouldn't listen to us. "All I want to do is live my life in peace. I'm calling your grandmother," he shouted as he wagged his finger. Miss Eula was waiting in her living room for us. "Miss Eula, we didn't throw the eggs," I sobbed. "Some big boys did," Stuart sputtered. "What were you doing at the back of the shop in the first place?" We knew that we couldn't tell her the truth, so we just stood there and cried. She looked at us for a long time. "Baby dears, I want to believe you. Heaven knows I brought you children up to tell the truth. If you say you didn't do it, then I believe you. Is it too bad, though," she went on to say, "that poor man has suffered so much in his life? He deserves more than eggs thrown at him. You know, he thinks that you threw the eggs. You'll have to show him that you are good people. You'll have to change his mind." In my kitchen the next day, we thought and thought. How can we win him over when he thinks that we threw those eggs? Stewart asked. He doesn't even like us, Winston chirped. Eggs, I said quietly. Eggs, Stewart said. Eggs, I screamed. I went to the kitchen drawer and took out a lump of beeswax, a candle, a small funnel with a wooden handle, and some packets of yellow, red, and black dye. Mom helped me show the boys how to decorate the eggs the way my booba had taught us. The way they do it in the old country. We made designs on the eggshells with hot wax, then dyed them, and finally melted the wax patterns off. We put the eggs in a basket, and even though we were afraid, marched into Mr. Kadinsky's shop and put them on the counter. He raised his eyebrows. Then his eyes dropped to the basket. Spasiba, he said softly. That means thank you in Russian. Pasanki eggs, he said as he looked closely. I haven't seen these since I left my homeland. We didn't throw those eggs at your door, Mr. Kadinsky, we told him. He looked at us for a minute. Well then, you have great courage to be here. Then his eyes glistened and his mouth curled into a warm smile. Come, have some tea with me. We spent the whole afternoon talking together, having poppy seed cake and strong tea. He told us about his life. We told him about ours. When we finally got the courage to ask about doing odd jobs to earn some money, he apologized and told us that there was no work. We didn't tell him what we wanted the money for. It didn't seem the right thing to do. Our hearts sank. I tell you this, he said thoughtfully. These eggs are as beautiful as my hats. Stewart, Winnie, and I looked at each other. It is almost Easter, he went on to say. I'm sure that people would love those eggs. Set up a table and sell them right in my shop. For the next few days, we worked very hard. We made almost a dozen Sankey eggs. When people came in, they picked them up and said things like, beautiful, splendid, intricate, glorious. We sold them all in one single day. That afternoon, when all the eggs were gone, we counted our money. We had more than enough for the hat. Just as we were about to tell Mr. Kadinsky that we wanted to buy the hat, he came out from the back room holding a beautiful hat box gift wrapped. Keep your money, children, he said softly. I have seen Miss Eula admire this. It is for her, isn't it? Tell her that I know you are very good children, such good children. When Easter Sunday arrived, we thought our hearts would burst when we watched Miss Eula open the hat box. She held us close as big tears rolled down her cheeks. Later that day, as Miss Eula sat at the head of the table, she said, Oh, baby dears, I can die happy now. And after I'm dead on Chicken Sundays, I want you to boil up some chicken bones, gravy and all, and pour it over my grave. So late at night when I'm hungry, I can reach out and have me some. Then she rolled her head back and laughed from a deep, holy place inside. Winston, Stewart, and I are grown up now. Our old neighborhood has changed some, yet it's still familiar too. The freeway rumbles over the spot where Mr. Kadinsky's shop once stood. I think of him often and his glorious hats. We lost Miss Eula sometimes back, but every year we take some chicken soup to Mountain View Cemetery and do just as she asked. Sometimes when we are especially quiet inside, we can hear singing, a voice that sounds like slow thunder and sweet rain. I hope you enjoyed this story.